It is incredibly common for new breeders to get into the reptile breeding hobby with the goal of making it their full-time income at some point in time, but they treat it as if it is a hobby rather than a business. They don't have a business plan, they don't make a marketing and sales strategy, and the breeding strategy, even if they do have one, is incredibly weak starting out. So, for this week's video, we want to talk about the differences between running a reptile breeding business like a hobby versus a business. My name's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and let's get to it. The very first thing that I want to talk about is the differences between a business plan and a breeding plan. So I think it's really common for new breeders to come into the hobby and they think that their plan to hit a desired combo or desired project is their business plan, but it is completely different. When I say a business plan, this is a strategy that you are going to make that will have a very specific, very deliberate, very proactive business goals. So while hitting a specific combo might be a very, very small subsection of this specific business plan, instead this is going to be something along the lines of, I want to turn a reptile breeding hobby into a full-time income within 7 years, within 10 years, or something like that. So what ends up happening is once you have that goal, whatever your goal is, and business plans evolve so they'll grow as your business does, but you want to be able to have a clear objective. Then you want to work backwards from that objective so that way you can get what are your targets that you need to hit to make that objective possible. So let's use a very common idea of, I want to turn a ball python breeding business into a full-time income. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is look at what is the number that you need to earn revenue-wise from your ball python breeding business that will replace your full-time income. And maybe you might want a dollar for dollar replacement of your income. And in this situation, if you are making $50,000 gross, you want $50,000 coming in from your ball pythons. But in my opinion, this is a little teeny tiny bit short-sighted. And that is because if you bring in $50,000 a year from breeding ball pythons, you have so many other expenses that you don't have if you are just working a regular W-2 wage job. So, in this specific example, you might have rodent costs, you might have additional electricity, you might have the cost to purchase more enclosures, and specifically buying more animals to make sure that you are able to stay at the level that you want to within the ball python breeding hobby. All of these expenses are going to be taking away from that $50,000 that you're used to living off of. So realistically, you probably need to shoot a little bit higher. All of that said, for the sake of simplicity, let's say that you need to hit $50,000 gross revenue in order to replace your income. So once you have this number, you need to work backwards, and that is you need to determine how much money per month on average do you need to be bringing in. So if we're looking at $50,000 a year, you need to be bringing in a little bit less than $5,000 a month from ball pythons. And the way that the ball python breeding hobby works is it's kind of seasonal, where you get a big influx of money once you have hatchlings and you're able to sell those hatchlings. And then as that year's round of babies are essentially depleted because you found them more homes, your income potential drops drastically. So it might not actually be possible, at least at first, to make consistently $5,000 a month from breeding ball pythons, but you might have a bunch of money come in the fall / maybe early winter months, and then as the spring and early summer months are rolling out when you don't have babies, you have a dip in income. But overall, what you want to do is you want to kind of target how it's going to even out. So once you have your kind of target income thresholds set for each month or each quarter or however you want to go about doing it, really the next thing that we need to do as a reptile breeding business is look at the strategy that we are going to use to make sure we are able to hit those, and that is our marketing and sales plan. So the marketing and sales plan is part of your overall business plan. And specifically for marketing and sales, this is going to be how are we trying to get people who might want to buy your animals aware of your brand? How do we get them to trust you? How do we attract their attention? And how do we get them to decide that they want to buy from you versus one of your competitors? So this is actually where most of my regular professional experience comes into play, because this is everything I do for my day job. So I absolutely love marketing, I love branding, and I think there's so many cool things that you get to do here as a business. This is where you get to decide who your business actually is. And that starts with establishing your brand identity. So this is going to go with the name of your business. This is going to go with your logo, your color scheme, the voice that you use in captions and online, and also in person. All of these things are going to inform who your business is, and they shouldn't be done essentially willy-nilly. You should be deliberate, you should be proactive, you should be strategic with how you are establishing your business's brand in order to align with the type of person that you want to be your ideal customer. So this is another aspect of your marketing and sales strategy, and this is identifying who is the best person for you to serve as a business. And you want to make sure that you have unique skills that allow you to target this specific market, and you want to make sure that this market is viable in order to sustain your business. Because while you might find out that you have really, really great skills to hit a very, very small niche market, if there's just not enough people in that market to sustain your business, overall, your strategy is essentially doomed. When people approach their marketing and sales strategy from kind of a hobby perspective, it's usually pretty loose and it's not well defined. They say that they're going to sell their babies at local shows, or they're going to sell their hatchlings on Morph Market, or something like this. And that's the extent that they've given thought to when it comes to actually selling the babies that they haven't made yet. So, in my opinion, really, really good businesses have a strong plan. They have essentially built a marketing funnel, which is a model in order to help sell their animals to specific people later on. And the way that a marketing or sales funnel works is that you start at the very, very top, and this is where pretty much the entire market is. So in the top of the marketing sales funnel, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people to recognize your brand. You're trying to make them aware of you as a business, because if you are able to make people recognize your logo, if they're able to recognize their brand, if they're able to recognize you, it is going to be far more likely that they will trust you when it comes time for you to make a sale to them, rather than if the minute that you are trying to make a sale to them is the very first time that they've heard of you. So in this specific stage, you want to put out a bunch of content, and realistically, this is on social media. While you could do this through advertisement, that takes upfront capital that a lot of new ball python or reptile businesses either don't have or don't want to invest in this specific aspect of their business right away. The next stage is the engagement stage, and this is where you have a bunch of people who are aware of your brand. Now you're getting a little bit smaller, and now you're getting people to actually interact with your brand. So this is where you are building up relationships. This is where you're networking within the hobby. And by forming these relationships with other people in the hobby, these are probably going to be the very first people who may potentially want to buy from you. Because while it is completely possible that when you do have babies for sale, somebody who's never heard of you may want to buy that exact animal from you, it's way more likely that somebody that you have been friends with for 1, 2, or 3 years while you're growing up those animals, that they end up wanting to support you, and those are going to be your first customers, and those first customers are so important because they are going to be the ones who establish your reputation throughout the reptile breeding hobby. The third phase is the conversion phase. So again, we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we move down the funnel, and the conversion phase is people who are actively considering buying from you. So at this stage, you need to have a plan on how you are going to stand out from everybody else in that specific sphere. So if you are going to be breeding animals where there is a lot of other competition, you need to have deliberate, proactive steps that you've already put in place that is going to help you stand out from that competition. This can be things about your brand. This can be about the relationships that you've built. This can be about the specific quality of the animals that you are working with. Or, and this is a completely viable way to do it, it could be simply being the cheapest on the market for that specific combination of genes. All of these are viable ways to do it, but some of them are going to lead to a more healthy long-term growth potential for your business than others. But what you need to do is you need to have a plan on how you are going to stand out right away, so that way when it comes time for it, you are not floundering and panicking when you can't end up selling babies because you didn't have a plan and you didn't have a strategy. The last stage of your marketing funnel is after you have made the sale, developing advocates who will drive word of mouth marketing, word of mouth referrals for your specific business. So very similar to the conversion stage, but rather than trying to get people to be convinced to buy from you, what you need to do is you need to find ways that once somebody has chosen to buy from you, that you make it better than any other experience that they have ever had. A lot of times people say that they have amazing customer service, but when push comes to shove, they don't actually do anything to prove that they have amazing customer service. So in this specific situation, this is where you get to do it. Once you've made a sale, you want to go the extra mile. You want to go above and beyond in order to show them that you are going to take care of them, that you are providing extra information, more details, better packaging, an overall better experience, because maybe you're calling in to check up on them and seeing if everything is all right. And again, this is no knock against bigger breeders, but a lot of bigger breeders don't have the time to do this level of detail. So it's a competitive advantage that smaller breeders have as long as you're willing to put in the work. And if you put in the work and you get people talking about how amazing of an experience it was buying from you, it's very, very likely that those relationships that you've built up with these customers will result in more sales down the line. Moving away from the hardcore business side of this, I think that there is a difference between how people approach their breeding strategy as a hobbyist versus a business. And for hobbyists, I think that it's very, very common for people to end up buying animals that they particularly like, and they may even also try to find animals that are not super popular, or maybe combinations of genes that are not super popular, in the goal that they will be able to make a name for themselves doing something that isn't being done much. Now, I do think that this can be a viable way to go about differentiating yourself from the market, but you need to pay attention to the market, and you need to understand not only where is the market today, but where is it going in the next 3 to 5 years, because if you're buying hatchlings right now, once you're able to produce babies from them, the market is going to be completely different, and you need to be able to use your intuition and make a guess on where you think it's going to be, and then buy the animals right now that will put you in the best position to take advantage of where you think the market is going to be 2 to 3 years from now. And if you can do this well, if you can do this right, honestly, you might be able to get away without doing much marketing, because if you're really, really good at the breeding strategy, it's very likely that you will hit animals that other people have done a great job of marketing, and you will be able to benefit from that. But if you are trying to get really, really far away from what everybody else is trying to do, you are going to have to be really, really good at marketing that specific gene or that specific combo in order to attract your market and carve out a space for yourself. And if you're not willing to do this, or if you don't have the skills to do this, you really, really, really need to develop a plan on how you're going to develop them. All of these things said, even if you do approach it as a business, there are some hard truths that you need to understand before you get into it. And that is, the people that you are ultimately going to be competing against have been doing this for significantly longer than you have. And because of that, they are in a more dominant position. They are going to have better business plans, they are going to have stronger marketing, and probably they're going to have better animals, which results in a stronger overall breeding strategy. And therefore, what you need to do is, it is so imperative to find ways that you can stand out from not only them, but everybody else. And if you are able to carve out your own very tiny piece of the market and keep it growing and growing and growing, slow and steady over time, that is going to end up resulting in a far better return for you personally, for the animals, and for the business than if you come in really, really hot, drop a ton of money, and essentially burn bright on the scene at first, but then ultimately end up burning out because you have overextended yourself in time and money and in the work that is required to care for all of the animals that you have. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week.